Morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here today. We have Cassie Gerst online today, presenting on conscious discipline, but not the same presentation that we've been hearing. It's more focused on the week that she spent at the Institute down in Florida, a week-long institute. From what I understand, she brought a team. And she's going to talk about that experience and then what she's looking to do as next steps. Just quickly, this is Michelle and Brittany here in the office from the Iowa After School Alliance. And we're happy to have Cassie on and everyone else joining us today. This will be recorded so people can access it at a later time. Just a few notes for everybody. The institutes, we do have the correct link sent out to everyone to register for Institute in Council Bluffs and an Institute in Dubuque. You're not required to go to both, but we'd like you to be at least one. So check out the grantee timeline that was recently sent out, I think yesterday, with the correct links. That's the update that I have. I'll turn it over to Cassie. Thank you so much for being willing to present, and I'll let you take it from here.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So hopefully this will be clear. If you need the presentation or would like to see any of the links or things that I'm showing you, please feel free to email me, and I can give you that, but it's also available at the end of the slot. So we've talked a lot about conscious discipline as in the After School Alliance, and this is about what my team of 10 went through when we went to the Institute, and then what we're going to come back and do. So for today, we're starting with breathing because that is so important to our com as well as our students, and in light of technical difficulties, I feel like it's very important. So then a little conscious discipline, our weekend review, how we're going to implement it, and a little bit of our next steps. And as you can see from the daily schedule, it was a full 7 days. So our staff worked about 44 hours just in the actual meeting time, excluding lunches. So it was a really full week for the 10 of us. But everybody was so energized and excited, and no one was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is still going on. So that was a really good feeling for me, because I'm very passionate about this FDL program. So we're going to start with breathing. So the drain, and I don't know if anybody knows how to do this, but you're all going to do it with me, and I'm just going to trust that you all are doing it. So everybody stand up, and I know what it's like on these webinars. You kind of multitask, but I'm going to ask y'all to pay attention. So everybody stand up in your places. And the drain, you put your arm straight out in front of you, and reach as far as you can, and then make fists and tighten your entire body, every single muscle in your body. And I'm going to talk funny because I'm tightening everything in my body. And you tighten it up for like a count of 2, and then you're going to release all that for count of 4 and blow out like you're blowing out this water in the drain. So tighten, 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 and out. And hopefully you all feel a little bit more calm. And when we do breathing exercises, so first this is just a tension release, and then when we breathe in for a count of 2 and then out for a count of 4. But you're going to see that happen in this video that I'm going to show you. Please let me know if you see if you have no sound. Just a little bit late, some stomach cramps, and we're going to line up because you can stare
yes, I think that's just what I need. Smile, take a deep breath. Much better. My body feels much calmer now.
Okay, so hopefully you all feel calmer now. Did you all hear that okay?
Yep.
Great. So much like many of our days, we're running from one thing to the next, and taking that breath not only helps us prepare for what's next and me doing this presentation, but also prepares us for that transition when we're going to talk to a child. So I really thought that was important as we start this webinar today. Oops. Okay, so this is a quick presentation. I'm going to show you this video real quick, which is just about, I love how she talks about what conscious discipline is, because that sets us up for what I'm going to tell you next. It's not that long, but bear with us, and here's just a little bit from Dr. Becky Bailey, because we're going to talk about this transformation.
So, what is conscious discipline? Conscious discipline is an emotional intelligence program to help adults and children respond from the higher centers of their brain instead of react from the lower centers of the brain to conflict in life situations. So basically what it is a shift from a very traditional, compliant, obedient model of discipline to one that's a relationship-based model of discipline. And each of these have different core beliefs. In the traditional model, the goal is to make children behave based on the notion we can make children's mind, we can make our spouse change, we can make coworkers be more productive. Now, I don't know about you, but I've lived long enough to know that you can't make anybody else change. You can't, and maybe you've tried to have a smoker quit smoking, a drinker quit drinking, or 8-month-old eat those seeds. It's impossible to make others change. Now, the conscious discipline says, since that is impossible, what is possible? It's possible to change ourselves. And because we're in dynamic relationships with each other, if I change myself and the dance we do with each other, then you in turn will change how you respond to me. The second difference between traditional discipline and conscious discipline is traditional discipline relies on rules and consequences as its foundation. And it says if it could just find the right rule or the right consequence, this behavior would go away. Now, if you go from jail cell to jail cell in America, you could ask almost everyone in jail, say, do you know the rule about killing? And they all could say yes. So obviously, rules and consequences aren't going to get perfect behavior because we're not short on rules. We'd all have a wonderful society. So conscious discipline says what governs behavior, what's the foundation, is a relationship with one another. And our relationship with each other gives us the willingness to want to solve our conflict. And everybody knows this. Everyone's experienced this. When you feel close to someone, when your relationship is going well, and you say, well, could you give me something out of the fridge? They'll go, okay. But when your relationship is severed, when you're mad at them, when you haven't been talking for years, and you say, could you get me something out of the fridge? They'll go, do it yourself. So that relationship gives us the willingness to solve our conflict. So the third difference between traditional discipline and conscious discipline is in traditional discipline, we're trying to get rid of conflict. We don't like conflict. We grew up in conflict as a painful thing that hurt all of you. The conflict represented hurtful things, screaming, yelling, days of intense silence. So when we grew up, we want to do anything to avoid conflict. And so what we've done to try to avoid conflict is usually rewards and punishment. If you have no conflict this morning, I may give you a little gummy bear. Or we'll take you to McDonald's if you just straighten up and act right. Or if you do these things wrong, we're going to take away things. We're going to take away recess if you're a teacher. We're going to take away TV privileges if you're a child. So it's based on these external models. External reinforcers, external punishers govern your behavior. A stimulus response. Here's the stimulus, you respond differently. Conscious discipline views conflict very, very differently. And what it does is help you. It helps you perceive conflict differently. It helps you see conflict as missing social and emotional skills. And then it teaches you the skills of how to replace those skills in yourself and in your children so that you can build healthy relationships. And in those healthy relationships, you can have connections coexisting with conflict in a very healthy, growth-oriented way.
Okay. So that's important, and I really wanted you to hear that because, there we go. Because that's the basis of where my team was going. So our superintendent attended all these teacher roundtables. He does it several times a year, and he just kept hearing behavior, behavior, behavior. And I did, for after school, I do our teacher surveys, our student surveys, and then I asked our principals as well. And what I kept hearing from principals and staff was also for after school behavior. We need to handle kids' behavior different. We need to do something different with behavior. Well, if we're doing the same thing we've always been doing, we're going to get the same results. Just like Dr. Bailey said, you can ask the people in prison, do they know that you can't kill people, or they can't rob, and they know, but they still do it. So we're seeing the same things in our after school and our school, is that we have these rules, we have external rewards. So you be really good, I'll give you a hound ticket, and then every week we'll draw out a winner. Well, we replicated our after-school program to what we were doing in the school day, and we're still seeing the same things, and it's the same kids, and we're just not making any ground. We're not helping. So what conscious discipline and what was really important to our team, our superintendent, and our administration team was that, okay, this makes sense. It's taking away that external rewards, external punishments. Okay, sit in the office. Okay, you can't have a recess. You have to be left a snack, whatever. To how do I teach you how to handle what you're feeling and your emotions and your anger or the feeling of anger or upset or disappointment, so that you can handle that in a way that will help you the next time, and so that every behavior that our kids are showing us is really a communication, is really, I don't know what to do with this disappointment. I don't know what to do when I'm angry. And so it shifts it so that we're giving them internal rewards. Oh, you were so helpful, right? As opposed to giving them a ticket and then saying, and we'll give you an award. And once you start to realize this, so our team, who spent a week in noticing and recognizing and really accepting this shift, it started to be, oh, did you see what that parent just did? Or did you see, we started to see all of the things that were external rewards. We went someplace and we heard a parent say, oh, if you make it out of this, if you're able to solve this puzzle, then I'll take you for ice cream afterwards. And I was like, look, it's external. We do it all the time. And part of that's how we were trained ourselves and what's on our own CD-ROM about what we learned when we were young. So it's really this shift. It's really this shift in our own mindset to help us with it. So we all have to do this in how we work with all kids and even our spouses. So I wanted to say that this was transformational because it really is. And when we look at the 3 different kinds of change, there's traditional change. We do the same thing that we've always done, but let's do it better, faster, cheaper. There's that transitional where we make small changes in behavior. So, okay, sending the kids to the office isn't working, so let's try the hound ticket, and let's see if that gets us the behavior that we want. And maybe it works for a little bit, but then it really stops working because we're just rewarding certain behaviors, right? And giving them an external reward. Well, I really don't care if I get that hound ticket or not, because we're not teaching them how to deal with what they're feeling. So this is transformational. It's a whole new mindset. So it's a new way that we're going to do business. And it's not going to be easy at all. But trying to make these shifts in ourselves, then we can work to make this change within our programs and within our kids. And if you want to see what this is, so they have free resources on their website, consciousdiscipline.com, and this specific change paper is Pay It Forward Transformational Process, and it's in that documentation. So our week. What was really neat about going to Houston, so they have the Summer Institute of 7 days in Orlando, Florida, and then there's 3 different satellite locations, and we were thinking, is it going to be the same if we go to a satellite? But it was awesome. Basically, there are several conscious discipline trained trainers who are just like if you had Becky Bailey there, and they present to you for most of the day. So most of the day, it's you going through this live, and then they have an hour, 2-hour video with Becky Bailey and what she's teaching you about the brain. And it being in Houston, we were actually in a middle school, in Keller Middle School, who has been using conscious discipline in their school as well as after school for 10 years. And so we were able to see how it's implemented and talk to the school counselor, the school principal, some special teachers, some core teachers, math teachers at the middle school level, plus talk to elementary, plus Head Start people and preschool, high school person. And so we got to see how this is implemented across the board. Because so much of conscious discipline is elementary. When you watch videos, when you see stuff, it's like these little kids doing it, and you want to know, how does it really work for older kids? And we were able to see that, which was awesome. So I'm going to show you a quick video of our week so that you can see what it was like for us.
We can go back to, we all find a way to do it. And all we get is more of them. And you see the stones that got you from. We can let them stay, but there's nobody we can work together, find somewhere to begin. Start in the heart, way down the road, back in the place. The people of love can grow, then you realize that we're not that far apart. We can build our bridge. Start in the heart, way down the road, start in the heart. Look at you look at me, and you see that I am on the side. Oh yeah, so we sometimes disagree. We can find a way to make it back. Though the road is long, the exit is always clear. I know there's a way to get there. We can get there. Start in the heart, way down in the road. That's how I feel. The people of love can grow. Then you realize that we're not that far apart. We can build a bridge. Start in the heart. Start in the heart. Way down in soul. That's your dream. The speed of love can grow. Then you realize that we're not that far apart. the breeze, feel the breeze, feel the breeze. Start from the high, way down to the low. Start from the high, way down to the low. Start from the high.
So the rocks that you saw in the pictures were really neat. So at Keller Middle School, they have a wishing well is a big thing. So you send all of your positive energy and well wishes and kindness and love to each other, to people who maybe aren't there, to people who aren't feeling well. And so Keller Middle School created an actual like little well, and it's their wish well. So when you leave Keller Middle School, you write your name on a rock and you put it in the wish well, because you'll always be part of the Keller family and school family, because that's what they create, is a school family. And so we all got to write our names on a rock and put it in the wishing well, because we'll always be part of Keller, which I really like. It really helps with that connection and that school family. So that was the rock that you saw. So some of the highlights from our week, and again, this presentation is really what we got out of the week and how we're going to implement it. So I don't talk a whole lot here about conscious discipline itself. So one of the big highlights was that brain state model. So everything's based on research and brain development and your brain state. So a big takeaway was my state dictates your state. So what state I am in, and there's 3 states. So your survival state, which is, am I safe? And that's the main question. So that's kind of that nonverbal, you're mad, you kick something, you throw something. Your emotional state, is basically, am I loved? So it's always that, I hate you, I'm going to run away, I can't believe that you make me do this, you drive me crazy, you know you're not supposed to hit your sister. Emotional. And then when you get to your executive state, that's when you can learn, when you can make choice, when you can reason. And so depending on what state I'm in, will influence your state. So if I go up to a child and I am just stressed out and I cannot, oh, you're driving me crazy, and how many times have I told you not to take that toy? If I approach a child like that, that is going to become influential to them and dictate their state. So it's so important that if I feel myself like that, I take that breath. I can handle it. I wish you well. I'm going to breathe. And you breathe 3 times and then approach the child. And take that 30 seconds it's going to take to do that before I approach them, so that I can be in a better state and I can lend my state to the child to help bring them up. That also influences the upset language. So my upset language becomes that child's inner speech. And there's this video, feel free to go to, that I have on YouTube, but you can watch some really funny videos with Dr. Bailey and her staff that show what that means. So if I come up to a child and I'm upset and I say to them, maybe they're upset because their fish died, right? And they're like, it's just a fish, it's okay. They don't live long, they just live, for like a day and you'll be fine. I'm just counting how she's feeling, and I'm saying, if you get upset about something like that, it's really no big deal, so just ignore it. Well, now, years later, for that child, if their dog dies or something else happens, it's okay, it's no big deal, they don't live long. So I'm writing, I'm programming what this child is going to be feeling, and that becomes their inner speech. So, for instance, I had a PE teacher who had told me when he was teaching me to drive, Ellen, as you know where you are. I'm like, no, I have no idea. He's like, you live a mile from here. And so I hear his voice when I drive and I get lost. I hear, Ellen, you know where you are. And so sometimes that it totally happens, and that was a big takeaway from me too, is do I discount a child's feelings? Do I discount their behavior, or do I look at it from they don't know what they're feeling, or someone else has told them not to feel that, or discounted that feeling, or ignored that feeling, and so can I teach them what to do when they're feeling those things? Also, the 3 brain states, am I safe, am I loved, and what can I learn, really helped me. And if you remember in the video I just showed you of the week, there was one video one example where they had that colored cellophane, the red, the blue, and the green, and the person held up one in front of her eyes and it said, am I safe? It was the red one. And that visual really stuck with me as, is my child in that state? Are they seeing everything from there? So personally, my daughter has anxiety, and she lives in a constant state of fight or flight. And for her, it's always fight. And so she constantly sees out of that red. And how I react with her and how I help her deal with what she's feeling will help her move along to the, am I loved, the blue lens, and then can I make the right choices, the green lens. And so that was a big takeaway from me, a visual that was really powerful for me. That structure meets practice. So in conscious discipline, you hear a lot about these 7 powers, these things that you have to learn as an adult. But this visual really meant a lot to all of our staff. I think we all took pictures of this screen when it was presented to us. But the adult is those 7 powers. Those are the things that we have to learn and consciously focus on, because we want to look at these skills, these 7 skills, and that helps regulate the child. So as my perception regulates me, because my child may not know how to deal with their feelings, and so they don't know how to calm themselves. They don't know how to deal with their anger, and so they need help with composure. And then it's those structures that you hear about, the Brain Smart Start, the safe place, all these rituals or structures. That's how that child practices that skill that they don't have, that they need in that moment. And so this really makes sense to me. Okay, so now I get it. There's these powers that I have to learn and reteach myself, because my child doesn't have this skill, and that's why we saw the behavior we saw. They fought with the other child. They took the other toy. They hit this child. They swore at me. They don't have the skill. And then these structures that I'm going to teach the child right from the beginning of the school year, or this after-school program, those structures then help them practice the skill that they don't have that they need. So this really made a lot of sense to all of us and helped us put it in perspective with how all this works. Connection, this was really meaningful to our whole team as well. So the connections on the outside build the connections inside the child's brain. So as we teach and have these connections with these children, that teaches them the road to get out of the survival state through the emotional into the executive. And there's these 4 ways to make connection: through eye contact, through touch, through presence. I'm here in the moment with you, focusing on you, not everything that's going around me, and in a playful situation. And so we want those 4 elements to build those connections. And in Iowa After School Alliance and after school in general, we always talk about the relationships. We can't move forward with this child. We can't teach them anything if we're not connected to them. And like Dr. Bailey said, it's that connection that builds the willingness to learn, to participate, to have these skills, right? So building these connections are so important, and having these 4 skills through connection, these 4 ways to build connection, makes sense And that's how we do the loving touch, the loving rituals, the writing smart start, but it's having these things. And then there's this great example where she had a smartphone, and when we tell our 2-year-old or our 4-year-old, our 7-year-old, 10-year-old, hey, I just need to be on this call, or I need to finish my meal, and so here's a cell phone, and we give them the cell phone. We're saying, here, take this in place of me, take this in place of a relationship with me. We don't have eye contact, we don't have touch, we're not present, definitely no playful situation, we're losing that. I was in, my husband, daughter, and I went to Culver's, and we had lunch the other week, and I saw a father sit one-on-one in a one-on-one booth with a child, and the entire time that they were there, the child had nothing, no electronics, no nothing, just sat there looking at his dad. His dad was on his phone the entire time. Didn't communicate, didn't talk, didn't anything. And so we're missing as a society that connection, those 4 connection pieces, and what a waste opportunity. So is it any indication or surprise that then when we have them in after school or we have them in a classroom, that they're not paying attention to what's going on, that they'd rather be on their phone? They're seeing how important these other things are as opposed to what truly connecting with someone is. So when we come into this work, it's this bottom little part here, to teach a child something, to be there for them, and we want to teach them reading, math, STEM, whatever activity that we're leading, that we want them to do. We need to be able to know that we're connected to them first, and that if they're not responding to us in the way we want them to, well, what is it that they're feeling? Do they even know how to act or what to say or how to ask for help that they need? And we'll find that out through connecting with them. So there's obviously no quick fix to everything that's happening in our society or around us, but knowing that we're taking this path is one step. And I have this glasses because that's where I want to be and where our team wants to be. We want to look through a love lens. We want to see the child as in a different light than what we may have been coming in before in last year's program. So we want to stop looking for that quick fix, send them to the office, get them out of the program, but look for transformational change, because the quick fix, we send them to the office the next day, they're good. We call home, okay, so they're good for 2 days. And instead, how do we help that child learn how to behave in that moment by what they're feeling, and so that we create lasting transformational change in the child. That through that relationship that we are building and connecting with them, that creates the willingness. And then that skill set that the child doesn't have can be taught. And when I realized that my job isn't to control you, level 1 in here, but it's teaching, that's a whole different mindset and a shift for us. And positive intent, that that child isn't bad. It isn't, they didn't hit that other child or take all the markers or take the kickball because they're a bad kid, because they don't know how to respect people. I want to see them in that they wanted the kickball, but they didn't know how to ask for it. That they are upset because they don't understand this math, and so they're just going to not do it. It isn't that they're purposely avoiding doing math because they're disobedient, but they don't know how to ask for help that they need. So how do I return their resistance into cooperation? Because connecting to them and love is much more powerful than fear. So, for instance, the child misbehaved. The old way that we were thinking was that I believe that it's intentional and you're just a bad kid and I now need to punish you. You're bad all day long, you're bad throughout the whole school day, your older brother's bad and been kicked out of school, and so, when we think that way, and I know lots that have thought that way, then that bad behavior really just continues because it's that self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, I'm a bad kid. But if we shift that to, you know what, this child is worthy, there is good in them, I'm going to stop that and I'm going to teach them a new skill set because that child has potential, then we're creating that road to everlasting change because we're creating that road to transformational change. So, in our Pieces program, so how do we implement a full shift and how we handle everything in our interactions with kids, and how do I take 100 after-school staff and have them start to do this? So, thankfully, there's lots of guides that can help with this, which are available, but it really, I've done a lecture series, I've gone and visited Conscious Discipline, I've had a master trainer teach now, I've done the week-long teaching. It's this whole different mindset, so it really does take a lot of training in myself and reminders of myself to figure out how to do this. And a huge takeaway for me was that, you know what, there's all these, right, your adult powers, and you want to teach the skills, and then you have these rituals, but it isn't where they're teaching you to do that in a classroom. My job as the director is to do that with my staff. So every skill and structure that you go through, how am I going to do that with my staff? Because I have to do that with my staff for them to be able to do that with their kids. Just like it's the teacher's job to do that and understand these things and teach their kids the structures before they expect them to do it. They can't just go to the safe space and think that, you know, that's going to help calm them. They have to teach that, and then it's a constant teaching in the moment with these kids, and I have to do that with the staff. So for me, there is this evaluator, there's a self-evaluation guide, which if you go to let you assess where you and your team are right now, and then I can evaluate throughout the year and see, you know, we're not doing any of this. Let's aim to do a little now, and so you build on it over years. But I need to be able to do all this with my staff. So I'm going to create a full family with my staff. So all of us have a picture of ourselves, and we create this family, this Pieces family. Give staff jobs to do. So all the jobs that we start seeing, a newsletter, a kindness, a celebration of the week, a kindness, a helping, a who do we need to wish well. And then every time we meet as a team, do those greetings at the door, do a breathe with everybody, do a brain smart start that provides that connection, that touch, that eye contact, but in a playful way. Have a celebration wall. Of course, some of this I'm going to have to do this virtually, so I'm going to create a space where we can do this because we are in all different buildings, but I want to create this for all of us. Have a place where my staff can feel they're safe if they need to calm themselves or regulate themselves. So to implement, of course, I had my vision going in, and I have my vision now, but my staff also has a vision of what they want it to look like. And at the end of the week, I think the 6th day, we met as a team, and you broke out, and we were able to talk through some things, but it's really brief. And they kept asking me, okay, this is amazing. How can we do this during the school day? How can we do this? Can we do this with child care centers in Burlington? Because we really should start to see. So they wanted this. They're like completely bought in. How do we do this across the board? Because it will help our kids so much, which was awesome to hear, but a huge vision. And that's like a long-term vision. I said, this is the first step. Doing this in pieces, this is first, right? And then, but the school day teachers who are on staff with us, the principals who see us doing this in their buildings, when they see this and we're able to track it with some data, that's going to be vital to this bigger vision, right? Of having a long-term vision where we have school day teachers, hopefully next year, maybe the year after, who I have a pilot school day teacher in every building who's now doing a conscious discipline classroom. So we have a longer vision of implementation, but after school is a good place to start. Next is a conscious discipline action team. So it shouldn't be just coming from me. It should be a team. So these 10 people that we have are going to work on my team that I'm going to go through on the next slide. One of the instructors there had told us about a Group Me. It's an app. So I downloaded that app because you spent 10 of us spent 7 days in this, and I didn't want to lose that momentum. So Group Me app allows me to send pictures, a text, something uplifting to my 10 team, and it doesn't share cell phone numbers. They can do that on their own if they want to, but allows us to communicate in a way that keeps them active and engaged. And so I'm going to do that, and then we're going to meet twice this summer, and then we have several trainings coming up. We are going to introduce, we have a master trainer coming in to teach all my after-school staff in Burlington for a 3-day training, August 6th, 7th, and 8th. And then we're going to have our kickoff with all of our staff on August 14th, which will have CV components to it. And then August 23rd is the first day of school, and then September 4th is our first day of pieces. So we're going to have this full implementation for how we're doing this. Okay, so my CDAC team. So we have 10 participants who went to, they call it CV1, the Conscious Discipline Summer Institute, 5 of which are going to be on the CDAC. So it's myself, one of our special teachers. She teaches music, but she also works after school program. An elementary site coordinator, a middle school site coordinator, and then 2 of our other after-school staff are going to be on this team with me to talk through all the logistic parts, because there's lots of logistics to all of this. How is it going to look? We are in our after-school programs in our buildings, our school buildings, but we don't have dedicated rooms, so we use an art room, we use a special ed room, so if those aren't our rooms, how do you build a safe space in that room when it's being used during the school day for a teacher? So is it going to be a mobile safe space? So these are like logistical stuff we have to figure out. And what rituals do we want to start in the first, year of implementing this? So those things we have to look at as well. So we're going to have a meeting this month next week. We're going to have a meeting in July, and then a meeting in August, and then some virtual meetings as well with my CDAC team. And then the 10 who went are going to have a vital role to kick it all off. So they're going to have jobs at our 3-day training. They're going to have jobs at our kickoff. They're going to do greetings. They're going to do a wish well. They're going to lead breathing in the beginning. They're going to lead bring a smart start. They're going to lead some of the loving rituals. So they're going to have a lot of the roles and training jobs and leadership roles throughout the year. We also have PD as a district every month, and that will be a time for all of our pieces staff to meet and have more conscious discipline training every single month. And so it's worked in throughout the year as well. So that's that team. And then it's important that we have evaluations, and conscious discipline has progress assessments. And so we're going to use these as well to track where are we, and where are we mid-year, and where are we year-end. And we know this is a long process, and so we're not looking for a transitional change, change one thing. We're looking for transformational, which is not a quick fix, so it's going to be a while to do. But we also want to track other things, such as our office referrals. So for after school, how many times is the site coordinator called? How many times do we have to call home? Is the child sent to the office? And we want to track that over time to see if that has gone down because we're implementing conscious discipline in a new way of talking and working with our kids and teaching them skills. We also want to track who is referring the most behaviors as well. So, as I mentioned, we have a staff training coming up August 6th, 7, and 8 that all of our after-school staff, so all 100 of them, are going to get trained on conscious discipline. And one night, there's a 2-hour parent training for all parents that we're going to invite parents in our district as well as those kids that we see. We see about 1,000 kids enrolled in our after-school programs, and so they'll all get invited to this through our call-out and texting system with the district, and so they'll get invited to that as well, which really just talks to parents about how to look at parenting a little bit differently and punishment and consequences different. And then our administrative buy-in, which is really important too. I mean, our superintendent believed in this and sent 10 of us to Houston for a training, and it cost a lot of money for airline tickets, hotels, meals, everything, the cost of training, and so he did that out of our school district budget. So we know we have his buy-in, and as the principals, counselors, as more people start seeing us doing this and attending our 3-day training coming up, and then we have lots of data to share, I look for that to grow. So DJ Baptiste is a high school student who, well, he's not anymore, he's an adult now, but as a high school student, kind of learned about, had a conscious discipline classroom in his speech class, and now he's a proponent for conscious discipline in teachers. And he said, change doesn't happen in a moment, but it's a journey of steps, connection, empathy, and positive intent. And that really has to be a quote on my wall, because that's what this is going to be. It's not going to happen in a year, in a moment. It's going to take a long time to do all of these different things. And so I wanted to close out with this quick video before I'll take questions, because this really spoke to my team.
My name is Joseph Phillips, and I'm in 6th grade. And last year, it was real hard for me because, like, I used to just mess around with people, just make them feel bad, make them mad. And then, like, if they mess with me, just like you said, I go straight to my red pen. You put yourself in that red and that pen, what you supposed to do? When you get angry, just turn around, take 3 deep breaths. Don't even worry about it. But the teacher, once the speaker says how much of a change that, you know what I'm saying, that you did, don't just blow your way to know that, you know, I came, me and you chopped it up, brother to brother, you know what I'm saying, and then when I come back, they can't wait for me to come and say, man, how much, you know what I'm saying, you're doing better within the school. So what you think it was that helped you? Was it just, you know? It's like, it's just the speech. It's just like the details you put into the speech. You said that your words are strong. Like, you get to tell that person, like, what you really mean, your expression, like, how you really feel. One time, there was this boy that was a bully, and he was just walking around, just saying things to people, putting them against blockers. Then one day, he came up to me, and just called me random names, and touched me, and I turned around, and I just told him, please don't do that again. I don't like the way you do that. And just stop. Your words have power. That's what it is. I want you to be that leader. You know what I'm saying? Somebody listen, you know, you got to say, hey, look, bro. You know what I'm saying? You got to remember, we are family. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you, Cassie. And if anyone has questions, they can type it into the chat box or um, through the phone line or computer. But I just want to thank you for that great presentation. It was a great summation of the model and the experience, and I think most importantly, the steps you're taking then to implement it, because I think when people hear that this is a culture change, they could shut down sometimes. That's a huge responsibility to change a culture. But we can do it one school and one program at a time. And I applaud your efforts to do that. Christine says in the chat, connections with the child is very important. I've had past staff jump into the steps first before getting to know the child, and then they're frustrated because it doesn't work. Yeah. So really understanding the different steps that conscious discipline entails, and being sure to do that breathing first. Set yourself up for self-regulation yourself before approaching the child. That's all important.
You want me to answer the question on cost?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So that really varies. So when we went to the week-long training is $1,100 just for the training, and then we had everything on top of that. So if you do or you want to do conscious discipline, I really do recommend that going to the week-long summer institute for key staff, because it really makes a big difference to have that 7 days. Online, there's a book study that you can do. You can take an e-course, and that's $375. And you can find that on the Conscious Discipline website. So I'm going to do that. What we're going to do is we're bringing in the master trainer for the 3 days, and that costs several $1,000s. It costs a lot of money, but this is going to be mandatory. I mean, this is how we are going to be working with our kids in after school. And so it was important that we got buy-in. So this past year was buy-in from the superintendent, me piloting it in the mentoring after school program, different aspects of it, and then have going to the 2-day training that the different funded that I can't remember. Michelle, you didn't fund the 2 days. Did you try to do the 2 days?
Yes, partially United Way of Central Iowa, and then we had registration too.
So I brought one staff to there, a site coordinator, and she was like, okay, this makes sense, because I needed her buy-in if I was going to make something mandatory and after school. But when she bought in, then it was like, okay, now all 5 elementary can do this. And then the middle school staff attended the impact conference, and they saw Amy present, and so then it was okay. So now they wanted it for middle school too. So that's how that whole thing went. But the e-course is going to be really, really good for some of my staff and as reminders. And then some of the elementary social workers are interested in it. And so they're going to attend my 3-day. And then they're going to do e-courses. So that's how costing and that kind of thing works.
So she had a few other questions about the training. Was it full days for each of the 7 days? And then another question about if your district is invested in PBIS and how that, if so, how does it fit together?
Yeah. So